So, can a sound actually change the world? Well, back in 1879, a brand new play ended with the simple slam of a door. But that sound was so shocking, so completely revolutionary, it shook 19th century society to its absolute core. We're going to dive into the story behind that door slam and explore Henrik Ibsen's masterpiece, A Doll's House.
And at the very heart of all this drama is Nora Helmer. This one line just perfectly captures the whole play. It's the moment she realizes her life isn't real. She's not a wife, not a partner, she's a toy, a plaything in a world that someone else built for her. This is the story of how she finally sees the walls of her own dollhouse.
Okay, so to really understand Nora's journey, we've got to step inside her world first. And on this surface, believe me, the Helmer household looks like the absolute picture of perfection.
And this, right here, this is the central tension of the entire play. On one hand, you've got this beautiful illusion. It's Christmas, the house is festive, everyone's happy, it's a perfect marriage. But just beneath that shiny surface, the reality is, well, it's a mess of debt, secrets, and some serious, suffocating control.
You see, this is how that control works. It's cleverly disguised as affection. It was pretty typical for marriages back then. Her husband, Torvald, calls her all these pet names. My little skylark, my little squirrel. Sounds sweet, right? But what he's really doing is keeping her small, treating her like a cute pet, not an equal partner. He controls all the money, down to the last penny, and even forbids her from eating macaroons. It just hammers home that she's not his partner, she's a child in her own home.
But here's the thing. This perfect little doll, she has a secret. And it's an act of defiance so big, it threatens to bring the whole perfect house crashing down.
See, years ago, Torvald was incredibly sick, deathly ill. And to save him, Nora did something that was at the time completely unthinkable. She forged her own father's signature to get a loan for a trip that would save Torvald's life. Now, in her mind, this was an act of pure love, but in the eyes of the law, it was a serious crime.
And you really have to understand the world she was living in. For a woman in the 19th century, this wasn't just breaking the law. It was a radical, rebellious act. Women had basically zero legal or financial power. They were completely dependent on men. So for Nora to go out and deal with loans and signatures all by herself, that was a massive break from how things were supposed to be.
Of course, a secret like that never stays buried for long, does it? Pretty soon, a man who knows what she did, a guy named Krogstad, starts to use it against her. And just like that, Nora's carefully built world begins to fall apart.
And all this pressure is actually what triggers her big transformation. At first, it's just raw panic, the absolute fear of being exposed. But as the blackmail gets worse, she starts to look at Torvald differently. His condescending attitude doesn't feel like love anymore. It feels like control. And that realization forces her to question everything: her marriage, her duties, her whole identity.
This all comes to a head in the famous Tarantella scene. Torvald wants her to dance at a party, and she does. But she dances this wild, frantic, almost desperate dance. To everyone else, she's just his beautiful, entertaining doll. But on the inside, she's dancing as fast as she can to put off the moment her secret finally comes out. It's the perfect picture of what's going on inside her head.
And then, of course, the inevitable happens. The secret is revealed, and that beautiful facade of the doll's house is just completely shattered in this one brutal confrontation.
So when Torvald finds out what Nora did, does he see the sacrifice she made to save his life? Nope. All he sees is a threat to his reputation, his good name. He's not grateful, he's disgusted and terrified of what people will think. And then he says this devastating line, which just shows that his honor, his reputation, was always more important to him than she was.
And in that one moment, hearing that, it's like everything becomes crystal clear for Nora. The love she thought they had, it was never real. It was just a pleasant game for him. His betrayal just rips the blindfold off, and she sees the truth of their entire life together.
And that incredible awakening, it leads to one of the single most famous and revolutionary endings in the entire history of theater.
Nora makes a choice. She looks at Torvald and tells him that before she is a wife, before she is a mother, she has a duty to herself. And that duty is to become a real person. She completely rejects the role society gave her and basically says, I'm leaving to figure out who I actually am.
When this play opened in 1879, the reaction was just explosive. People were stunned. The idea of a woman leaving her husband was bad enough, but leaving her children to go find herself? That was absolutely unheard of. It was like a cultural earthquake that challenged everything people thought they knew about family, duty, and a woman's place in the world.
So in the end, when Nora walks out and slams that door, it's not just the end of a play. It's this powerful declaration. It's an act of self-creation. It's a woman deciding to define herself on her own terms, outside the little dollhouse society had built for her.
And that leaves us with the play's huge, timeless question. Nora's choice really makes you think. What is our most fundamental duty? Is it to the roles we play for other people, as a partner, a parent, a child? Or is it, first and foremost, the duty we have to become our own authentic self?